Hello and welcome to another episode of Rico'S Rants. I'm your host, Rico DiGiorgio. So, I just did a rant for Robin Hood Men in Tights. And the main reason why I talked about that is because there's a joke in it which deals with an Abbott and Costello routine. Not even a routine, it's just some guy sounds like Costello and goes, "Hey Abbott!" to an Abbott. And that made me think. Instead of droning on about a movie you will never watch, or if you've already seen, you're not going to watch again, I should talk about something that I'm passionate about, something I really love. And I did talk a lot about it in the other video. This is basically the part 2 of my love for Abbott and Costello. So, I'm going to pick a movie with Abbott and Costello. Abbott and Costello, meet Frankenstein. For those of you who don't know who the fuck Abbott and Costello are, meaning those my age and younger, first of all, shame on your parents for not raising you right. They should have put an Abbott and Costello tape in front of you when you were a kid, like my dad did. Abbott and Costello were a comedy routine in the 40s and 50s, late 30s as well. Bud Abbott was a straight man, tall, not as funny guy. He was sort of supply the beginning of a joke, and Costello, Lou Costello, is the short, chubby, loud, dumb guy who supplies the punchline, usually. Think of him as like the original Chris Farley and David Spade, or the Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi, or they were another contemporary to Laurel and Hardy. I mean, there was that fat guy, skinny guy dynamic, and they were just as important. They were pioneers of that. Or, if you would, they were an original Jay and Silent Bob. Something like that. Tall and slender and short and fat go together well. Even still, both of my best friends are tall and skinnier than me, and I'm the short, fatter one. I'm the louder one, too. I'd also like to think I'm the funny one. But they'd probably be like, yeah, you're right. So, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein is, honestly, it's actually a very historically significant film. Because at this time, before all this, Abbott and Costello were making these one-off movies where they were background characters and they would do a couple of the routines in the plot of the film. The plots of the films were usually generic and boring and always had a romance or a murder thing, and then they would kind of pop up as background characters and do a couple of routines, and those were the ones you were like, oh, they're back. Now I'm interested. At least for me. I could not tell you anything about what Night at the Tropics or Buck for Privates or whatever, any of their other really early films. But they've discovered a niche, which was, this was Universal. Universal owned them, and Universal fucked them over at one point. They decided to put them up against a ghost in a movie called Hold That Ghost. So it was a sort of a horror film because Universal had the Universal monsters. They own Dracula, they own the Mummy, they own Frankenstein. So they said, well, let's put Abbott and Costello, make them actual stars of the film, and make it kind of scary. So Costello and Abbott and a bunch of other people are running away in a haunted house from a ghost. That worked. It worked way better. Costello was able to ham it up and act scared and do the whole, "Hey, Abbott!" like screaming. That was his catchphrase. He was always yelling to Abbott, which is why that fucking scene in Robin Hood Men in Tights makes me piss myself every single time. I laugh my ass off from that. So they did it with a lot of them. They had Abbott and Costello meet the Mummy. Abbott and Costello meet Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, played by Boris Karloff. Which, interestingly enough, his Dr. Jekyll is just as evil as Mr. Hyde. He actually willingly takes the potion to turn into Mr. Hyde to fucking kill people. That's diabolical. That's you don't see that a lot in the Jekyll and Hyde stories. Or if you do, it's because of this. This sort of part of that for that set the tone for that. So eventually, they get to their best one of their best ones for sure. Meet Frankenstein. Now, Boris Karloff is in Frankenstein. He's played by Glenn Strange, who looks just like Boris Karloff. Not to mention, they got Lon Chaney Jr. So not Lon Chaney Sr., who was the Phantom of the Opera, but Lon Chaney Jr., his son, who's known as the Wolfman. And he plays the fucking Wolfman. This Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein is sort of an unofficial sequel to The Wolfman and Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein, as well as Dracula. That's right. Here's a great little bit of trivia. Bela Lugosi, the original Dracula, if you exclude Max Schreck and Nosferatu, the original "I want to suck your blood" from 1931 Dracula, only reprised actually playing Count Dracula one other time, and it was in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. He's played other vampires, and he's played Dracula-like characters, but never Dracula. He's only played him twice, Dracula and Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. This movie, absolutely... Quentin Tarantino likes this movie, and he lists this as one of his top films because it taught him how to blend genres. If Tarantino likes this movie, it's gotta be good. Granted, Tarantino loves every movie, but he holds this one in high regard, and so do I. Quick rundown: Abbott and Costello are... I don't even know what the fuck they do. They work at baggage claim or something like that, or they're delivery men for bags. And this guy who runs a House of Horrors wax museum type place named McDougal has a couple shipments, and he actually does believe that he has the remains of the original Frankenstein monster and the coffin to Count Dracula. Turns out he's right. He just doesn't realize that they're both still alive. At this point, Dracula, for some reason, is now in control of the monster, Frankenstein's monster. To be fair, the title should not be called Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. It should be called Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein's Monster, but it's too fucking long. They should have said Abbott and Costello Meet Dracula. That would have been perfectly fine. That would have been better. But whatever. Dracula has been wanting to nurse the monster back to health, but before he does, he wants to give it a more sweet-natured as well as childlike mind, one that will obey his every command. Hence, Costello. Costello is being wooed by the assistant of Dracula. They've been dating forever, so they've been playing this for a long time, or she has at least. And Costello is, and I don't know. The Wolfman, Lon Chaney, has been tracking Dracula for some reason. I guess there was a tie-in where Dracula and the Wolfman were against each other in another movie, and they're like, well, let's just take that subplot and put it in this one. Okay, works fine with me. So we see the Wolfman, we see Frankenstein's monster, we see Dracula. We don't see the Invisible Man, but he is heard. Voiced by Vincent Price. Come on, man. Vincent Price is in this movie? Well, not really. He stars in this movie. The horror parts of this, if you are a fan of the Universal horror monsters, you will love this film. Absolutely 100% love this film. If you love good comedy mixed with your horror, this was a pioneer. This was arguably one of the first ones. Back when they were making horror films and, back in the 30s and 40s and 50s, they tried to scare as much as possible. But a lot of people don't like to be scared. Yeah, it was popular. It was a new thing. Horror movies were coming in. People were like, okay, let's do this. And then people didn't want to be scared too much. Well, let's throw in some funny in there. It works really well. I still laugh at this movie. I'm 25. I've seen it 20 times. More, maybe. I still find it hysterical. I recommend this movie all the time at work to little kids. Say it might be a little scary, but it's going to be really funny. A little kid can relate to Costello. He looks like a big baby. He looks like a giant little kid. He talks juvenile, he talks quick, he talks loud, he looks like he's having a temper tantrum. When he's scared, he looks relatable. No one relates to Abbott. I mean, if you do, then I'm sorry. But I always relate to Costello. One ex-girlfriend, I showed her a routine of Abbott Costello, and she's like, he reminds me so much of you. And I don't know if that was meant as a compliment or as an insult, but I was like, thank you. And she's like, oh. I'm like, no, thank you. I really appreciate you saying that. She's like, okay. I don't know how she reacted to that, but I took it as a big compliment. What is it a little cheesy? Yeah, it's a little cheesy because it was 1948. Everything was cheesy back then. They didn't know what the fuck they were doing. They were only barely 35 years into filmmaking. They were trying everything. They were at one point the bat that Dracula turns into is an animated bat. And I mean it's like a cartoon, but they would do it frame by frame where Bela Lugosi turns in. He gets teeny and tiny and all of a sudden becomes a bat and he flies around. And it works. For its time, it really works. Well, I mean, they could do CGI now. They can whatever. It's absolutely a fantastic film. If you like old films, go see it. If you like speaking of Mel Brooks, if you like young Frankenstein, you'll love this. Both are black and white, both are gothic, both are hysterical, and both deal with classic horror figures. In this case, this one has 4 of them. Go see it. I can't even do any of the routines justice. It will just ruin the movie. Go see it, enjoy. I don't know. Fuck it.